The financial advantage of acting before you're ready. Most people believe there's a moment when everything finally clicks. When confidence shows up, when money feels sufficient, when skills feel ready. That's when they'll start investing seriously. That's when they'll change careers. That's when they'll take their finances to the next level. But for most people, that moment never arrives. Instead, years pass, bills get paid, life stays busy, and progress feels slower than it should. Not because they lacked ambition, but because they waited for readiness in a world that rewards early movement. There's a financial advantage most people never talk about: acting before you feel ready. Not recklessly, not blindly, but early enough that time, learning, and compounding can actually work in your favor. And today, that's exactly what we're unpacking. This topic matters because waiting to feel ready has quietly become the default behavior for a huge number of people in the US and the UK. Most adults don't see themselves as passive or fearful. They see themselves as responsible. They want to make smart decisions with their money and career, not impulsive ones. So they delay action until conditions feel right. They wait until their savings feel large enough before investing. They wait until they feel fully qualified before applying for better roles. They wait until income is higher before taking money seriously. They wait until confidence arrives before changing direction. Each delay feels justified, sensible, even. But over time, those reasonable delays add up to something far more costly: lost momentum. The problem is that readiness is often emotional, not practical. It's shaped by uncertainty, comparison, and fear of making the wrong move. Meanwhile, the world doesn't wait. Inflation continues to reduce purchasing power. Job markets evolve. Skills that were once valuable slowly lose relevance. Opportunities shift toward those already in motion. Many people end up stuck in a frustrating middle ground. They're not failing, but they're not progressing the way they expected. They work hard, stay informed, and follow the rules, yet feel behind. When they look around, they assume others are simply more confident, more talented, or more lucky. What they rarely see is timing. Not perfect timing, but early participation. The core problem isn't lack of discipline or intelligence. It's the belief that preparation must be complete before action begins. In reality, most meaningful financial and career progress doesn't start with readiness. It starts with imperfect action that creates readiness over time. Waiting to feel ready doesn't come from laziness or lack of ambition. It comes from how modern adults are trained to think about risk, mistakes, and responsibility. From school to work, being wrong is treated as a failure. Mistakes are visible, judged, and sometimes punished. In contrast, doing nothing rarely carries immediate consequences. So over time, inaction becomes associated with safety. One major root cause is the fear of irreversible decisions. Many people believe that starting too early locks them into outcomes they can't escape. They imagine investing before they fully understand markets, choosing the wrong career path, or committing time to skills that won't pay off. What's often missed is that most financial and career decisions are adjustable. Investments can be changed, skills transfer, careers evolve. But emotionally, being wrong feels permanent, even when it isn't. Another cause is information overload. There is always more advice available, more analysis, more opinions, more warnings. This creates the illusion that certainty is achievable if you just research long enough. But in complex systems like finance, income growth, and careers, full certainty rarely exists upfront. Waiting for it becomes an endless loop that delays action without reducing real risk. There's also a time-related bias at play. People feel losses immediately, but they experience missed opportunities slowly. Losing money feels sharp and painful. Losing years of compounding feels abstract and invisible. As a result, the brain chooses the option that minimizes short-term discomfort, even if it increases long-term cost. Finally, social norms reinforce waiting. Acting early often means acting alone. Waiting feels safer because it's what most people are doing. But when everyone waits to feel ready, progress belongs to those willing to move without that feeling. And that's how waiting turns from caution into a quiet, expensive habit. Acting before you're ready doesn't mean acting blindly. It means redefining what ready actually means. For most people, ready is treated as confidence. clarity, and certainty. In reality, those things usually arrive after you begin, not before. The more useful definition of readiness is much simpler. Can you start small? Limit the downside, and learn as you go? In practical terms, this means lowering the emotional stakes of your first moves. You don't wait until you feel like an expert to invest. You start with amounts small enough that mistakes are survivable. You don't wait until a job title changes to build higher level skills. You develop them quietly while the risk is low. Early action becomes experimentation, not commitment. This approach shifts your focus from outcomes to feedback. Instead of asking whether something will work perfectly, you ask what information it will give you. Small actions generate data. Data creates understanding. Understanding builds confidence. That sequence is far more reliable than waiting for motivation or certainty to appear on its own. From a career perspective, this means choosing learning over permission. Many people wait for formal approval, promotions, recognition, external validation, before stretching themselves. Those who move earlier build leverage sooner. By the time proof becomes obvious, they're already positioned ahead. Financially, the same logic applies. Consistency beats timing. Participation beats observation. Acting early allows time to do the heavy lifting. Even if progress feels slow at first, the goal isn't to be right immediately, it's to be in motion. Acting before you're ready feels uncomfortable because it replaces certainty with responsibility. But that discomfort is temporary. What it buys you is momentum, adaptability, and time. The three things waiting can never give you. The real advantage of acting before you feel ready doesn't show up quickly. In fact, that's why most people miss it. Early action rarely feels impressive in the moment. Progress looks small, results feel slow, and compared to the imagined payoff of waiting until everything is right, it can feel underwhelming. But over time, something powerful happens. Time starts working for you instead of against you. When you act earlier, mistakes are cheaper. You have room to adjust. You have flexibility. Learning happens gradually, without pressure. Skills develop while expectations are still low. Financial habits form before stakes get high. This creates a long runway where improvement compounds quietly. People who wait often experience the opposite. By the time they finally feel ready, life is heavier, responsibilities are larger, risk tolerance is lower. What could have been a small experiment now feels like a major decision. That pressure makes action harder, not easier, and because time is shorter, every mistake feels more expensive. This is how waiting flips the risk equation. It feels safer in the short term, but it concentrates risk in the future. Acting early spreads risk out over time. It allows you to learn when failure is manageable and recoverable. Over years, the difference becomes visible, not in dramatic moments, but in options, the ability to pivot careers, the confidence to invest calmly, the capacity to absorb shocks without panic. Financial freedom rarely comes from one perfect move. It comes from accumulated adaptability. Acting before you're ready doesn't guarantee success, but it gives you something just as valuable: time to improve, adjust, and compound. And in the long run, that advantage is difficult to replicate once it's gone. When you step back and look at the pattern, one thing becomes clear. Most people don't miss out because they make reckless decisions. They miss out because they wait for a version of readiness that never fully arrives. They wait to feel confident. They wait to feel certain. They wait to feel safe. And in the process, they give up the one advantage that can't be recovered later: time. Acting before you're ready isn't about ignoring risk or pushing yourself into constant discomfort. It's about understanding how progress actually works. Confidence is built through repetition, not planning. Clarity comes from feedback, not theory. Financial stability grows from consistent action, not perfect timing. When you accept this, the pressure to get it right starts to fade. What replaces it is something more practical: momentum. Small, imperfect steps create movement. Movement creates learning. Learning creates better decisions. Over time, that cycle produces options, more control over your income, your career, and your future choices. That's what financial freedom really looks like in real life. The people who seem ahead didn't wait until fear disappeared. They learned to move with it. They didn't eliminate uncertainty, they managed it early. when the cost of mistakes was still low. And that decision, repeated quietly over years, made all the difference. So here's the question worth sitting with. Where are you waiting to feel ready before you begin? And if you were honest with yourself, what's the smallest step you could take right now, one that doesn't require confidence? Only willingness? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you hesitating in your finances, your career, or a decision you've been postponing because you're still waiting to feel ready?